It's the end of April in northern Quebec. Winter has finally loosened its 7-month hold around James Bay. The snow and ice remain, but the south winds have begun to blow. That means the geese are on their way north. It's time for the people of Paint Hills to head into the bush and set up camp for the goose hunt. Fred Mark is the head man of the camp he and his family share with a group of friends. Fred has the Cree hunter's special passion for the spring goose hunt. The rest of the group is waiting down by the river. This is the first goose hunting caravan to leave this year, and much of Paint Hills has turned out to see them off. There's a festival feeling in the air, even stronger than when a plane arrives, or when the ice here on the Makatawa River finally breaks up, and the whole town comes out to watch. Spring means a renewal of the activities and rewards of the goose hunt. It's an enthusiastic party that now heads upriver, east from James Bay, and into the ancestral hunting grounds of the Cree. Time has brought certain welcome changes to the people of the eastern James Bay region. Once it was the women who pulled toboggans out to the hunting camps, while the men laboriously broke trail. Then it was the dogs, Eskimo dogs, brought to the Cree by contact with the Hudson Bay Company traders. And now it's the snowmobile that does the work on the trail. These people have the practicality of the hunter. It didn't take them long to see the advantages of joining the snowmobile revolution in the north. Mechanization has made this exhilarating exodus from Paint Hills faster, easier, and noisier. Now, in April, the snowmobiles haul canoes upriver to the hunting camps. After the ice breaks up on the Makatawa, the families will return to town by water, with their snowmobiles loaded into canoes. Then they will bring back a supply of goose meat to put into the community freezer, some for their own use, some to be enjoyed at communal feasts. Whatever the season, the rivers are the highways. They have been for all the centuries the Cree Indians have lived here. It was the rivers that carried the fur trade to these people and first brought them the products of another culture. It's only the final brief lap of the journey that takes the caravan off the river and into the bush. To the southerner, these subarctic woods seem empty, desolate, and forbidding. To the Cree, who long ago adapted to life in this land, the countryside is filled with opportunities for anyone who has the skill and fortitude to make use of them. One of the most eagerly awaited opportunities comes with the return of the geese and the move out to the hunting camps. This is the campsite. Already people from one of the other families who use it have arrived and set up a teepee. There are hunting camps like this one dotted all along the rivers and the coastline of the eastern James Bay area. On Cree maps, most of the place names are the family names of traditional hunting camps. Each group has its own ancestral hunting grounds, and everyone knows where everyone else has hunting rights. It's an old and very workable system of equitable sharing in a land that has never offered an easy living, even to the experienced. Next morning, the men melt snow for their breakfast tea. This is where goose blinds have been built out of branches, about 2 miles upriver from camp. Fred Mark heads the party from his camp. The Cree don't openly emphasize individual ability, but it's commonly agreed that Fred Mark is an expert at imitating the call of a goose and luring flying birds down into shooting range. A few yards away, a hunter from another camp waits patiently in his blind. According to the etiquette of the hunting camp, he will not join the breakfasting party unless he's invited. But by the same etiquette, he will receive an invitation. The wind isn't right this morning. It's not from the south. The geese aren't flying yet. After breakfast, anything that could alarm the sharp-eyed geese will be concealed. Shiny cans are blackened in the dying fire. Finally, the wind switches direction. That means the wooden decoys must be moved. Geese on the ground would face the same direction taken by landing birds, heading into the wind. Geese won't land unless they can spot open water. The men's goose calls can hardly be told from the real thing. The birds are taken in and turned towards the hunters. This is another camp that will be used all during the spring migration, as flights of geese pass overhead on the way to Arctic nesting grounds. The Cree have names for every species they hunt, but no word that can be translated as animal. Instead, they use their word for food. The women are responsible for firewood. The men supply the meat. Closet space is provided by the trees. This is where relics of the hunt may be set up out of reach of dogs and cats, in an act symbolizing respect for the animals that die in order that men may live. The Cree hunt bear, otter, and beaver. Inside, the fire radiates warmth and bakes the bannock made from a dough of flour, lard, salt, and raisins. This is the Cree hearth, and for much of the year, the Cree home, fragrant with the promise of hot, fresh, crusty bread. It's in this congenial haven that a child can begin to learn how to get along with a widening circle of family and friends, and with the northern wilderness. Back in Paint Hills, some of the men take pride in their wood-carving skills. It's another way of expressing the respect and the love that bind the Cree hunter to the animals he hunts. This is Geordie Georgekish. He is one of the elders of the community, a man who can still draw a young audience with traditional songs and narratives. Paint Hill's children may not understand all the old-fashioned words, but from the tone, they sense the thanks given for a successful hunt and the deep hope that the next hunt will go as well. The languages used in this northern Quebec settlement are Cree and English, in that order. No French is spoken. It's summer now, the time for play and relaxed socializing. Barely 600 people live here, beside the Makatoa River, about 2 miles inland from James Bay. The town is run by an elected band council and chief, and an appointed band manager. Some of the men get ahead with the odd jobs they haven't found time for until now. The people of Paint Hills have access to plenty of fresh water at this time of year. There's one spring right at the edge of town, and another a mile or two down the river. This is a good time to air the winter mattress, a bearskin, one of the best insulators for sleeping on cold ground. Near the river, there's always a marathon entertainment, Paint Hill's non-stop outdoors game of checkers. The summer days are long this far north, but all through the daylight hours, the knock and scrape of pebble checkers can be heard. As summer wears on, the quality of water in the village spring deteriorates. The river itself is brackish from the James Bay tide. But here, a couple of miles downstream, spring water runs clear. The Cree have learned to handle their environment gently. Even here, a certain amount of care is taken to draw water without muddying the source. Cree children are encouraged to follow the examples set by their adult relatives, to show respect for the land and the animals they depend on, to strive for competence in all things, and to take a quiet pride in mastering Northland skills. It's a special day for this Paint Hills family. They're on their way to a new home over in the housing project sponsored by the Department of Indian Affairs. They've been waiting some months now for the time to move in. The waiting list for every house to be sold is drawn up by the Band Council according to a complicated point system. They take into account the size of each family and of its income. It's mostly local labor on the project, but the lumber is brought in by barge from the south. They're ordinary bungalows. Some of the families prefer to remove the inner walls and to have a large, rectangular, wooden teepee. Everyone's leaving work early today. An event that takes place only once or twice every year is about to begin. A walking out ceremony. A large and excited audience has collected to witness a group of youngsters officially leave babyhood behind. One of the grandfathers is head man of the ceremony. Along this ceremonial pathway, this year's 2-year-olds are about to take their first walk outside. According to traditional rules, their feet should not touch the ground outdoors until the day of their walking out ceremony. Each child carries symbolic tools, wooden rifles for boys, wooden axes and net floats for girls. Like these first steps to the outside, the tools are symbols of the responsibilities that will come with growing up. For everyone present, this moment is a loving celebration of the promise of childhood. For the walk back into the teepee, the girls carry a load of firewood, the boys a piece of meat in their packs. These are gifts for the head man, symbols of how adult tools are used. The gentleness, pride, and affection expressed in this ceremony are at the core of the Cree character. Adult life requires more than technical competence. The qualities of resolution, fortitude, and hope must also be achieved. They help each person fit into the social fabric of the community and to cope successfully with the demanding environment of the North. A deep bond of affection unites all generations. In Cree kinship, all the brothers of any grandfather are also considered to be grandfathers. By that system, today's headman has most likely received symbolic gifts from more than one of his grandchildren. And from today on, the children can venture out on their own. This is one of the ways the people of Paint Hills have kept a remarkable continuity with the culture of all the Eastern Cree. Their traditions are bonds that reach over vast stretches of land and back through centuries of time. The men still fish and hunt game birds along the shores of James Bay. Harry Hughboy apparently doesn't consider an Arctic tern chick to be a game bird, but the coastal waters abound with ducks and geese. The Huboy camp is simply a summer version of the inland winter goose camp. It's occupied by 2 families, sometimes more. Groupings at the various camps are established by kinship, convenience, and congeniality. Setting up camp is a cooperative business. The women are laying down the balsam branches that form the teepee's fragrant 20-foot circular sofa, a combination floor and mattress that gets changed every 10 days or so. With his part of the job done, Harry is off to check on the fish nets he's set out just offshore. The women will finish the teepee. Getting the nets in place is one of the first jobs in setting up a fish camp. They're emptied every morning and afternoon. The catch is mostly whitefish. Most of the families stay close to the coast at this time of year. Flies and mosquitoes discourage anyone from spending too much time inland. Here there's usually a breeze and plenty to eat. Wild blackberries, low bush blueberries, and fish. Harry Huboy has the Cree attitude to the animals he uses to feed his family. There is no aggression in the taking of food, but respectful gentleness and practicality. In a canoe, a living fish can be a nuisance. It's a good catch. There'll be a fine feed tonight. Morning in Paint Hills. This is a tool for removing slush when it's time to chop a hole through the ice for fishing or setting a trap. There have been innovations in the details of everyday life in Paint Hills as new gadgets have found their way north. So far, the Cree have been able to keep a workable balance between old and new ways. They accept or reject most novelties on the basis of how useful they are and how well they fit into the customary way of doing things. Preparation of a polar bear hide hasn't changed much. This animal strayed in from the pack ice of the open bay and was shot on one of the islands not far from town. Nowadays, a dressed bearskin brings a good price, a welcome addition to the cash income of the families involved. Charlotte Visitor is one of the pillars of the church and of the community. She is capable of just about any task that a woman might be expected to do in the north. Down by the river, Paint Hill's only checkerboard is still drawing its usual crowd. Out on one of the islands, another group of families has set up a summer fishing camp. At this time of year, fish is the main staple of the Cree, and preparation of the catch is a group affair. Surrounded by expertise, young hands soon become adept at the job. These traditionally small groupings help to give a sense of security to the children who grow up in them. The generations mix and share the work. Drinking water is no problem here. Some of the children collect fresh rainwater from hollows in the rock, while others perfect their skill at cleaning fish. If a child doesn't do it properly, she may only receive a gentle teasing from the women. Cree children are rarely punished. Much of the whitefish catch is preserved for the winter, sun-dried and smoked. Some of this food is for the families involved in its preparation, and some will go to other people back in the community. Fish heads are skewered onto branches to be used as bait or dog food. And the hunter has been sighted, on his way back with a couple of ptarmigan. To the Cree hunter, trained by a long apprenticeship of example and experience, going out to hunt at this time of year is a casual event. It presents no more difficulty and no less hope of success than a shopping trip down to the Hudson's Bay store. Competence in every detail of work is the goal. With the Cree, as with most people, it's a case of practice makes perfect. Paint Hills is the nucleus of a hunting area that extends about 200 miles inland from James Bay. In the early days of the fur trade, the people used to be scattered in small family groups averaging about one person to every 100 square kilometers. Now, even though their numbers have doubled, population density is still extremely light. The people here used to live in a settlement called Old Factory to the south. They're still known as the Old Factory Band. They moved here in 1959, attracted by a spacious town site and an excellent supply of drinking water. French maps of Quebec show the settlement as Nouveau Comptoir, new factory, but its inhabitants prefer the Cree name for Paint Hills, Wemindji. The new housing project is the most obvious innovation in Wemindji, but the significant changes are more subtle. They come from an influx of new ideas, new standards, new education, all introduced by an increasing contact with the South. The supply plane flies in 3 times a week, and it brings more than merchandise. It brings relatives on visits from other communities and homecomers from residential schools and hospitals. The arrival of every plane here is an event. Fred Mark, the head man at one of the goose camps, works for the local Hudson's Bay Company manager. He'll deliver this shipment over to the store. And when the excitement of the plane's arrival is over, Wemindji will relax into the weekend. The only church in Paint Hills is Protestant, Anglican, with a service in Cree written in syllabics devised over a century ago, just across James Bay. The early missionaries had no difficulty in converting the population. The Cree are a devout people. They simply accorded the Christian God a place in the hierarchy of their own spiritual world. The Anglican church women form an influential group in Paint Hills. They keep the old crafts going. Charlotte Visitor is one of the group's highly respected members. Meticulous workmanship and a fine eye for color mark all the beaded goods that the Band Council sends out to Quebec City for sale. These designs stem from the closely observed natural world of the North and from the world as described in a rich heritage of traditional narratives. They are decorative symbols of Cree culture. Sally Kakabat is another expert practitioner of the old crafts. This work originally took the form of embroidery in porcupine quill and moose hair colored with vegetable dyes. Early in the fur trade, the native materials began to be replaced with silk threads from Europe, and later with the familiar glass beads. It's an absorbing and sociable way to spend a hot afternoon in late summer.
Try that way again. Huh?
And this is the Womenji version of a fall supper, a convivial community get-together that's held in all seasons and for almost any occasion, a wedding, a birthday, a holiday, or simply because everyone feels like it. People are served in relays, with the older men of the village seated first. Life in the bush equips these people with two key abilities: to endure a famine and to make the most of a feast. Tonight the meal features roast goose, taken from the band freezer for the occasion. And the occasion, this time, is almost purely social, although as with most feasts, it is also a celebration of success in hunting, past and future. With winter coming on, the people are growing even more conscious of their food supply than they have been during the recent warm months. It's the older generation who are also most conscious of the accelerating changes in the community. The future seems to be crowding in and edging a long, respected past further and further into the distance. So far, only a few of the young people have left Paint Hills to try life in the South, and most of them have eventually come back. But more and more, the South is reaching northward. Everyone agrees that change is inevitable, but nobody knows just what changes to choose, and nobody knows for sure if there will be any choice. The changes might well be all imposed from the outside, and the old society and the old ways may simply be swept away. Still, with good food and good company, this isn't time for worry. The rules here are certainly simple. Don't linger too long once you've eaten all you want, and what you don't want now, take away to eat later. Everyone gets a piece of waxed paper to help him carry his leftovers home. Winter arrives early in Paint Hills in October. Two of the common activities around town now are chopping firewood and gathering icicles to melt. Many are getting ready to leave for the winter bush camps. It's a long and usually a bitterly cold season, but the Eastern Cree have their own ways of surviving it. Now they're learning new ways, and not all of them can be called desirable. Most of the children used to accompany their families out to the winter camps to learn the techniques of hunting and trapping. Now the youngsters either attend the Paint Hills grade school or fly out to a residential high school in one of the larger settlements. Only about 10% finish grade 12. What they are taught in the towns doesn't always fit well with the life in the wilds of northern Quebec. The Band Council has gradually been increasing its control over education, and with its approval, the local principal recently tried an experiment. The skills of the hunt and the trap line were made part of the formal curriculum taught in a bush camp near Paint Hills. That kind of program may be part of the answer. It may help to keep the Cree culture in balance with the coming changes, as southern Canada continues to eye northern resources with growing urgency. It's not easy to imagine some things changing in this immense, seemingly limitless land. Early winter is the time for some of the men to go down to James Bay and hunt for seal and beluga whales. In a few weeks, the whole surface of the bay will be frozen in. Now there's still some open water. The Cree are a patient people, but standing on the shore all day, watching for a snout to break the water, takes all the patience life has taught them. One of the hunters here is Sam Visitor, Charlotte's husband. He was band chief for many years. The solitude of the seal hunt offers time to think about the past and the future. Here, the Cree have been able to adapt to every hardship that nature imposes on them, including the threats of starvation and freezing. Their attitudes have been tested by centuries of time. They don't fear the environment. They're trying to find a practical way of dealing with it. Here, hunting and ice fishing aren't just pleasant outdoor recreation. They're an important part of getting a living. This is one of the many times a man must exercise patience as well as competence and teach their value to his children. Patience must not give way to anger. Anger is a loss of self-control, and that to the Cree means a loss of humanity. Cree women have their own spheres of competence in the bush. Many, like Juliet Swallow, operate a line of winter snares. What must be shot, the men provide. What can be snared, a rabbit, the occasional mink, the women and children are expert at catching. Cree technology is simple by outside standards, but its practice requires deft skill and a knowledge that is both subtle and complex. Properly equipped, physically, mentally, and spiritually, no one need fear the rigors of place or season. men have trap lines that extend deep into the interior. Even traveling by snowmobile, it may take all the rest of the day to get back to camp. These traps are for beaver, meat for the pot, fur for cash. The Hudson's Bay Company used to handle most of the local fur traffic. Now the Band Council arranges its own sales. Every man knows the details of the beaver population within his own traditional trapping area. Sites are located and animals counted before freeze-up. The ice is unusually thin for this time of year, one of the seasonal variations that the Cree are quick to take advantage of. These traps are tightly sprung. They're designed to stun any animal they catch before it drowns, unlike the old steel type. Snow shoveled into the water will soon freeze to hold the trap in place. And another day's work is almost over. Juliet Swallow uses a fleshing tool made from the leg bone of a bear. She is skinning a beaver. The fur trade animal, the creature that first brought the company men on their profit-seeking probes along these northern rivers. Secure in their own culture, the Cree picked through a rising tide of new products and new ideas and took what they wanted. They even managed to integrate mechanization into their society, and the heart of their culture remained intact. It can be felt in this teepee. Security, ability, control. A firm grip on self and on society. A gentle, effective way of dealing with people and place. This is a culture that works on its own terms. Now the people hear of plans to dam the rivers, divert them, flood the hunting grounds. They hear of new jobs and new industries, construction, tourism. They sit in the teepee and ponder all the new things they must suddenly adapt to. The Cree have been adapting competently for centuries. If, in the midst of radical change, they are allowed the freedom to keep soul and body, community and environment together, this time-tested culture will find its own new balances.
Ni ga ni ma ha wa ji ya yo ji